Hey, it's Benji with the Colorado Sound, and we are so excited to be joined by Robin Pecknold from Fleet Foxes. Thanks for joining me this afternoon, Robin. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, definitely, Benji. Thank you for having me.
Hey. Well, let's start with the easiest question. So, you came out with the new record, Shore, and this is what was cool. It arrived exactly at the moment of the fall equinox.
Mhm.
Why was it so important to release this record at that exact moment? What was the significance of that?
Well, it was, I think before the pandemic, I think the album was probably going to come out in September, but in a way where there were singles being released throughout the summer, and then a tour attached to it, and I was really thinking about it as kind of a summer fall album. So then that created the problem of like, the work on the record was delayed for 3 months or so. Then, were we going to hold it until next summer or next fall, and who knows what's going to happen then. So
Mhm.
um, it just seemed like, I liked that it was the equinox was, something that happens every every year, every late September. It's this consistent thing. It's not related to human society. It's not, it's just happening, and it has some kind of, spiritual significance, I think. And I liked that it was a Tuesday, because I used to love going to record stores on a Tuesday after school and listening to records all night and then talking about them with my friends all week at school. And it was kind of a way to get the record out, in kind of quickly after it was done, because it was only finished on September 8th, so um, it was kind of how I would always want to do this. And I had always wanted to do something like this. And it seemed like now was kind of the best possible time to try it.
Yeah. No, and I mean, it definitely was memorable. I mean, everybody knew exactly when they could get this record. I mean, we were actually, at the computer ready to download it. And it's
Awesome.
funny because we played nothing but fall music all day long. And so you kind of kicked off a full day of really cool programming, and it was
Yeah,
just
amazing.
perfect, hand in hand,
Yeah,
all around.
I'm with you.
And listening to the whole album, though, one thing I didn't hear was I've been getting a lot of records, that are, talking about isolation and the pandemic or protest music. And
Mhm.
were you at all tempted to do any of those things, or did you just do what you did without thinking about it?
I think, for me, it was, it was trying to find that balance between, you know, evoking, or, being honest to the time in which it was made, but not maybe dating it to that time, in the long run. I think for me, so many of the, I just felt, when the pandemic hit, I just felt grateful to have a roof over my head, and that my job was to make music, and what a luxury that is. I think a lot of my personal problems became, seemed became came to seem pretty inconsequential and pretty small compared to what we've all been going through. And then in terms of, there's a song like My Stranza, which talks about missing friends, but feeling like, we're all walking the same line together right now, even if we're not seeing everyone all the time, and how that's, going through the same thing, but separate, but together, and how that's this totally new dynamic. You can start a conversation with anyone, and you have a common ground, kind of, which I've never experienced before. And so, I think the pandemic made its way into the lyrics, but I wanted to make sure that it was in ways that didn't kind of, um, you know, tie it indefinitely to 2020.
I was going to ask you this a little later, but it seems appropriate to follow it up with this question. The album as a whole has a rather bright, optimistic tone to it. And I mean, that's a good example of what you're talking about. I mean, we're still all in this thing together. Would you say that is the mood of you and the band as a whole, or were you trying to, lift everyone's spirits with this record?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was interesting because, I had, we did 2 years pretty intense touring for the last album we did in 2017 and 2018, and that was the most intense touring I've ever done. And I think I was more tired at the end of that than maybe I've ever been. But I wanted to work on music, but I didn't want to kind of, wait a year or two to recover from that tour to kind of get back to work, because I love making music so much when when everything is going well. And so the music for me kind of was helping me through a tough time a couple of years ago. Writing these songs was helping me through a tough personal time a couple of years ago, in the kind of grab the bull by the horns kind of sense, where you're like, I'm going to make something bright and exciting to kind of pull me out of this, post tour exhaustion or post tour malaise, And so it's been interesting having it kind of land at a time when we're all exhausted for a totally different reason, than what inspired me to want to go down this musical path, in the first place. But that it ended up, we're all kind of in that boat now, but you know, it, it's for different reasons.
Right. It's interesting. I mean, you touched on the touring and just how taxing that is on you, mentally. This new record, and touring kind of being a big question mark for the future. Will you guys hit the road eventually at some point and tour to support the record, or are you not even going down that road yet?
Oh, of course. I mean, I want to tour more now than ever. Like, it's
Yeah,
gonna be so amazing. Like,
good.
every show is gonna be like, not for Fleet Foxes, but for every band, every show back for like a year or two is gonna be just the best shows anyone's ever been to or ever played. The energy is gonna be incredible. I think I was a little bit like, before the pandemic, I was like, oh yeah, I guess we'll go out on tour in September or something, and it'll be just kind of another round of shows, because it was just going to be, back in the system kind of. But now it's going to be a totally different feel. And I don't want to go on sale with something that I don't think is going to actually happen. So we're trying to be careful about that kind of stuff, and just make sure that it's like well planned and well presented and like safe and everything. But
Mhm.
I'm absolutely, I kind of can't wait. You
Yeah.
know, yeah.
That was the best answer I've heard in a long time, man. I got to tell you, I will be front and center when you guys come to Colorado. So
Oh yeah, great.
can't wait. That's going to be awesome. Along those same lines, though, this has got to be the weirdest release of a record you've had in your career. What are
Yeah.
some of the unusual things you're dealing with? And did you think maybe I should put this on hold and wait until things get a little bit back to normal, or why wait? What was your thinking in releasing it at this point during the pandemic?
Well, it seemed like there was this, the record was going to be, because I wanted to get the album done just for personal reasons, just to get it off my mind,
Mhm.
regardless of if it came out right away or not. I just wanted to get it done because I'd spent a ton of money on it, a ton of time, and it was like, obviously the circumstances changed every expectation of what would happen after the album, so I was dealing with that and kind of processing that. Um, it felt like September was this one little window, and then everything this last week. I'm like, well, I'm glad we got it out 2 weeks ago, because this week wash.
No kidding.
and
Yeah.
uh, and so it's we're on this day, week to week, day to day kind of like roller coaster, and it's like, I'm kind of shocked that the week it came out, it was relatively mellow. I mean, we were, relatively, and I guess it just felt like this one window of time where there could be some people could give attention to it, or if they were receptive to it, they would receive it, and then who knows what the future holds, um, even week to week. So it just kind of worked out that the great record label, they were on board with this plan, and I was prepared to just put it on Bandcamp and move on, and I don't know, get a dog and live pandemic life.
There you go.
Um, but it's been, I think I'm happy with how it worked out. All the feedback has been really good, and I think, like, seeing people get tattoos of the album art already, and making cover songs, and that's been like a real source of joy for me the last couple of weeks, for
Yeah.
sure, and I'm lucky for that.
Yeah. It's interesting too. You're talking about working on this record, but I'm sure, like a lot of musicians that I've been speaking to, you're not used to having this amount of downtime. I mean, this is uncharted territory for you, I'm guessing. Have you picked up any new hobbies? Have you got any new skills that you've picked up? Are you binge watching on Netflix? What are you doing during your downtime?
I got fairly into baking, and then I mean, like, in the 3 months before work on the record really kicked in again, I was baking a lot and watching. or playing like video games for the first time since I was a teenager.
All
I was
right.
like games where you're like a cowboy kind of walking around, Colorado-esque landscapes. That was therapeutic. Those months of quarantine, those weeks of quarantine. But then once the work on the record started back up, that's been my focus every day for the last 3 months. And now lately, I started watching this show called Billions, which I think I'd confused with a show called Ballers for a long time. But so I was like expecting The Rock to be in it, but it's actually more like Succession, which is a show I really loved. So I have been watching it. I don't actually watch that much TV. I don't have like a lot of my attention span is too short even for that. So I think, but this show's been kind of fun to watch for sure.
Good. Well, and how about bands? I mean, have you had a chance to listen to a lot of different bands that you might not have had a chance to get acquainted with? Is there anybody that you've been introduced to recently that you're really stoked about?
One thing that I've been doing a lot of in quarantine is listening to the radio,
Hmm.
and much more than I ever have in the last few years, because I haven't had like a car commute, and I haven't, I don't know, you just make playlists, and I think in quarantine it's been the best. I've listened to more radio just for a company, news radio, classical radio, whatever it is. Just it's all. I'm always listening to the radio now.
Good.
Um, I wonder if you've seen that an uptick or anything, or for me it's been super. I just listen to whatever's on the radio, and
Yeah, we had the best ratings we've ever had on this radio station recently.
nice.
And we actually, because we pay the bill, we're a NPR affiliate music discovery station. We've
Yeah,
seen that our membership. We were scared to do a membership drive because it felt weird asking for donations during this, but
sure.
our listeners have connected with us, and they want to make sure this is a resource that they have. So yes is the short answer.
That's
But
great.
it's still weird. I feel bad for my friends in the commercial radio side of things, and that they're struggling right now. And thank God I don't have to rely on commercials. I'm relying on people that love good music to support the radio station. And
Right. That makes sense.
it's a big difference. It really is. So
Yeah.
I think you successfully switched the tables there, Robin. Let's get me back to doing the interview. Anyway, you got a future in journalism if you ever want to leave the fleet boxes. But I guess really that's about all I had to say. And strangely enough, we've already killed a good chunk of the time allotted to us. So, but I did want to make mention of what you touched on earlier. Vote.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone register to vote, and make sure to vote with your heart in November and always.
Mhm.
And don't forget,
Yeah.
get it done. Deadlines are coming up, I'm sure. And yeah, thank you so much.
Well, Robin, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. We are loving the record. In fact, it's our album of the week, so we're playing pretty much a cut every other hour on this thing. So
thank you so much, Benji.
Yeah, you are so welcome, and thank you. And I am hopeful we will get to see you in person in 2021.
Absolutely.
All right.
Awesome.